Hi, I'm Tatsu with Real Progressives. We're live and we're talking about immigration tonight. This will be my fifth or sixth broadcast with RP, and I believe it's the fifth because it was maybe a day or two after the election that I started here. I'm just going to give a shout out to a good friend of mine, wonderful immigration lawyer by the name of Scarlett, Leiva, in San Francisco. And if if you have any questions about immigration, perhaps for yourself, a friend, or family, feel free to ask her. I've linked her in the comments description here. So after talking with Scarlett today, also, by the way, I'm kind of enjoying this new widescreen format. I've been complaining about that for a while, and Facebook has decided to let me in. So I'm part of the widescreen club. Isn't that nice? So we had a conversation with Scarlett by phone, and we discussed the immigration issues facing everyone, who is frightened of what Trump could do, including Scarlett. And Scarlett's Latino or Latina and Hispanic, and she definitely has her own concerns. By the end of the conversation, the conclusion that Scarlett and I had is that we don't know a lot. Hi Jan. Sorry, the camera's kind of blocking the view of my comments here. Salute, watching from Ohio. And the conclusion is we just don't know what a Donald Trump administration would bring, how would it affect immigration. But let's go through what we do know. And I think the executive action order that everyone worries about, all of my immigration lawyer friends, and I know quite a few actually, I personally have some expertise in the paperwork and some of the process in getting various types of visas and even green cards. I am not an immigration lawyer, but I can answer basic questions. What an immigration lawyer can give you is, expectations on how long the process can go on for, what you can, how to frame the narrative around your case and all that. So we're worried about DACA. DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It's not what I confused as the DREAM Act, which was a legislative bill that did not pass in Congress, although it tries to achieve some of the same goals through executive action, presidential executive action. Now, what it did is it gave deferral on prosecution, action, proceedings, and even just going to court on what could end up being deportation of children under the age of 16 who arrived in this country with their parents through no fault of their own, as they say. And it provides them with 2-year work permits, and this was one of the better things Obama did during his administration. However, as we know, a record is not just one action. It's the legacy of many actions, and on the whole, Obama has been pretty tough on immigrants. He's not, I wouldn't call him exactly a friend of the American immigrant. So, 2.5 million people deported is pretty harsh. It's more than Bush. It's more than any U.S. president in history. Now, so DACA is what's feared that Donald Trump might be taking away. But yet, what evidence do we have of this? And the most deportations in history. That's correct, John. He's, yep, deported many people, 2.5 million people. So Trump appeared on 60 Minutes. He talked in vague terms, as he's wont to do, about possibly actions on immigration. He's very vague. He had some nice words to say. He said, there's a lot of nice people here. These are good people. We want to take care of them. And without, getting anywhere near policy. So the answer is, although we fear he will take DACA away, we don't we don't know what he's going to do. And Sandy, who live streamed just before me, maybe an hour and a half ago, yeah, she used to process H-1Bs, F-1s, J-1s for the university she worked. So, yeah, immigration touches a lot of our lives. I've seen my friends not being deported, but self-deported, because after maybe a decade of being here, living in the shadows, thanks to Bill Clinton, by the way, they just could not make a life here. Working under the counter, or working in the food industry, service sector, for is basically what amounted to illegal paychecks. They just couldn't make it, and they just, you meet a turning point. You're 40 or say, and it's like, what kind of life am I going to have for the rest of my life? And they go back home. So yeah, I miss a lot of my friends. They're not here anymore. If I want to see them, I have to go, fly on a jet across halfway around the world. And that's Bill Clinton's fault. So Bill Clinton probably, he's directly to blame for the immigration crisis that we have today. After Ronald Reagan, of course, ironically, issued amnesty, the problem built up again, and then Bill Clinton just he brought the hammer down double hard on him, on immigrants, right? Things like, if you're out of status and you get caught here, you have to wait outside of the country for 10 years before you can even come back and argue your case. I mean, what is that, really? So that right there is deportation in effect. Live in the shadows for 10 years, or go back home. So I've given you the legal prioritization for deportation, and there's a link from DHS, which Scarlett furnished to me late this evening. And I don't know, Scarlett might appear here in the comments, so if you have any questions, for her, feel free to reach out. You can also reach her in the description here through her own Facebook page. Now, the prosecutor discretion in wait of a new administrative closure provided by DHS, Department of Homeland Service, was a memo sent out in 2014 regarding prioritization of deportations. And this deferred action memo coming down from Obama, headed up by DHS, which, as you know, is the security apparatus of the United States. It has jurisdiction over USCIS, Customs and Immigration Services, and not a lot of Latinos knew about Bill Clinton. I don't believe. I lived through it, so I do know. And one of the most damning things in the election that I saw was video of Bill Clinton standing in front of Congress, railing against immigrants, saying they brought their crime. They were, he didn't say rapists, but these people were criminals ipso facto, and it was a condemning critique of the immigrant class in America. So, and you know, it's just one of your shake my head moments where, you know, Bill Clinton, he actually got up there and called them illegal immigrants. He said that. You know, maybe it's politically correct. It's not. There's no such thing as an illegal immigrant. People are not illegal. Okay, that's just not. That's fact. It's not linguistics. It's not semantics. People are not illegal. If you get a speeding ticket, are you a quote-unquote illegal driver? I don't think so. You know, yes, you broke the law. But to call anyone illegal is strictly an epithet. So we have the different priorities. Priorities being priority 1, threats to national security. You know, being associated with gangs or being associated with terrorists. And mind you, this is just suspicion of terrorist association. It doesn't have to be proven. We have, you know, if you're a felon, yeah, you're priority 1 and you're out of here. Now, priority 2, if you have 3 misdemeanors under your belt, if you have a domestic or sexual abuse charge under your belt, you're gone. And it also only applies to people who have not been inspected, quote unquote, by 2014. And well, what we mean by inspected is that you have, you know, been face to face with a customs official at the border, or you've had some sort of interview with USCIS and the like. Now, priority 3, other immigrant violations. Recent deportation orders. So this was enacted in 2014, and what it meant is if you have, this does not apply if you had some sort of deportation proceeding prior to January 1st, 2014. If you've committed a crime, if you've triggered something, you know, a red flag over at USCIS that would, after the issue of this memo, then you're priority 3, you know, the lowest priority, right? So, you know, I see people here talking about the stringent refugee vetting process. We're going to discuss that. Now, now this is kind of the wide-ranging part of the talk here, where we're discussing what possibly Trump could be doing, you know, other things than DACA or changing the, you know, prioritization for deportations. Is he going to get rid of these prioritizations? Is he going to just say, if you're a criminal, you know, if you have 1 misdemeanor, you're going back? We don't know. We actually, and I don't think, you know, I don't suspect that Donald Trump has actually even read this memo that Scarlett kindly provided to me. What does a ban on Muslims look like? What is he's definitely walked that back. What does the vetting look like? Someone here points out that the vetting process for political asylum is pretty strong, or refugees. I also want to add to that. I think it was John who was saying that you know, under current law, and under, you know, Donald Trump, who might possibly just freeze immigration from countries like Syria, perhaps, political asylum doesn't work if you're over there. So you must enter our country first and then apply. So you can't go to the consulate or embassy of a U.S. consulate or embassy in a foreign country and apply for asylum. It doesn't really work that way. Now, we have examples on, you know, good and bad, you know, how immigration affects the stories of our American lives. Scarlett's, you know, seeing cases. I'm seeing cases. My other immigration friends are. You know, what about the What about the grandmother in or grandfather in Egypt who wants to be reunited with his son's daughter and grandkids in the United States? This can't happen, under a vetting process, because we have cases where people are waiting to have their family members come in legally under the current process, and some of them are waiting for 5 years or more. That's pretty typical. And maybe your immigration case or your friend's immigration case is pretty cut and dry. But when you're talking about family, it's a whole nother level, and you definitely need a lawyer at that point. I shouldn't laugh, but there on the plus side, DACA. If you have maybe some Republican-leaning friends who feel DACA was not a good thing, and people have to get in the back of the line and all that, just tell them that there was benefits for DACA. We saw an increase of economic activity. We see families coming together, which also raises economic activity. Hi, Lisa. Yep. Mexico waiting process is like 20 plus years. And yes, Adolfo. Yeah, it's, obviously it's harder for some countries than others, and how's that not racist, right? Okay. So I think that covers the immigration part of tonight's talk. What if you can't afford a lawyer? Well, I would ask my friend Scarlett again. Just a little small plug for Scarlett Leiva of San Francisco. Her links in the description here, and I would ask her because I'm sure she knows or can refer you to some resources for people who don't have the funds to hire a lawyer. Now, you can also just educate yourself, and I would say also, consultations are very helpful. Most immigration lawyers that I know do offer a free consultation, or maybe it's $150. So you can walk in, talk for an hour, and they'll give you some helpful tips. And what I would recommend if you want to just, test the waters, so to speak, with a immigration attorney or lawyer, be prepared, do the research yourself. I've done quite a bit of immigration work for friends, and I basically follow the guidelines. I guess it's kind of like doing your own taxes or something. But yeah, GoFundMe. I have a great, crazy radical idea for GoFundMe, future talk. So, but little hint. I have a sort of private-public partnership with GoFundMe to kickstart the small business economy in the United States. All right, now be prepared for your consult with an immigration lawyer. Have all your paperwork, have all your documentation. They might not even look at it, but at least if they ask you a question, you can refer to details in your history and verify that you do have this or that, so forth. Now, and yeah, get versed on the laws, get versed on what type of status that you're seeking, how it can be achieved, and what are the resources necessary to do that. So, let's see, we have a question here. Don't undocumented immigrants still have confidentiality with the lawyers? Yes, of course. Attorney-client privilege is always in effect. So, I guess I'll just finish off with some loose talk about the liberal base losing it. Nasty women fight back. And I'm really tempted to
do some shit posting when I get on Facebook some days when I wake up and see my self-identified liberal friends railing against the legitimacy of Trump's victory or election win. And yeah, it's ironic. It's ironic that they're feeling the depression, the disillusionment, the utter loss, disappointment of Bernie Sanders being slowly robbed throughout the primary season. They know what it feels like. They don't feel it legitimately. I'm not going to tell them that, but they're mad. And, by day 2, by day 3, I was like, wow, my friends are taking it hard. It's like, and then you have some silly posts like, yeah, the only time I hear people talk like this is when there's a natural disaster or death in the family. And I was like, whatever. But it is similar to something like losing your pet dog. I'll put it in those terms. It's funny, but it's not appropriate. But here I go. I'm not always a diplomatic person. When I'm hiding behind a computer screen, I can be pretty savage, quite honestly. And I'm glad I'm live streaming because it forces me to be more honest. However, yeah, it's it's like losing a dog for these people, but they keep losing their dog every day, so they're still really mad. They're holding out crazy hopes that the Electoral College is going to swing their way. Just like we all kind of shook our heads, said like, yeah, Bernie's got this, in September. So it's the same thing, but it's a much bigger thing. And again, but it is like I predicted in that if Trump won, it would motivate these people. And it sure is. And I love it. It's like my master plan is working. Right? And they're calling their Congress people. They're calling their senators. The biggest issue for them right now is Steve Bannon. They do not want Steve Bannon. They're whipped up in rabid fear about Steve Bannon, and they don't want him to be in the administration. It's like whatever. I think we got bigger fish to fry, but like DAPL and stuff. So it's priorities, right? So, yeah, they never said a word about super dealers. Yes, it was me all along. My master plan. So I had to, I guess in May that I made my infamous prediction that Trump would win. I backed it up with data, but then I had to confront the reality, which is, okay, this guy Trump wins. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? And I thought about it for a month, and my conclusion was it's better, because at least some people will get off their armchairs and start doing some direct democracy stuff, whether it's on an individual level, community-based protesting. I can't believe that I've seen 3 Facebook friends calling the representatives about Steve Bannon. It's remarkable. It's not quite my master plan, but at least they're getting active. And I'm not, I definitely am not on their feed saying, you should be concerned about DAPL and all this. No, I'm saying, great. I'm glad you're doing this. I hope you feel your own power. I hope you understand that you can have an effect on our government. And so I've posted some things on how, like a former congressional staffer saying what works, what doesn't work when you want to influence your local elected official. People are posting phone numbers to their state reps. Yeah, so yes, I am secretly enjoying the tears of the liberal, but I'm pretty sure none of my friends are watching this, so I I can say that, but I'm happy for them too. You know, congratulations, you know, on doing something positive for themselves, and let's keep that going. You know, I don't want to whip them up in a frenzy every day, but surely the Trump administration will do something that's not to their liking, and I hope they keep going, you know, and I hope they join with us, right? Okay. So that's enough from me tonight, and you're amongst the friends we won't tell. I hope you enjoy this new widescreen format, Tatsu Wide Live, right? I like it. And I'm, you know, got my little pointer tool, so shame on you, self-identified liberal. Now you know how it feels. Maybe you'll come work with us now. Yeah. So I'm not sure what I'll talk about next. Thanks for hanging out again on a Tuesday night, 1 week after the election, T-minus 66 days until Donald Trump takes office, and we'll see you tomorrow.